Happy summer and welcome to the Two Goal Lead podcast presented by BCHL Network. My name is Brian Wiebe. Thrilled to have you along here, and I have to throw out an apology because it has been a while since we had an episode of the podcast. But I'm absolutely thrilled that you are able to join us here for this episode as we are getting closer and closer to the 23-24 BCHL season, which is really a season unlike any other that we've ever seen. It is, of course, the first season that will occur with the BCHL operating as an independent league, not a member of Hockey Canada, not a member of BC Hockey either. Now, lots of news, of course, has happened as a result of that. We saw earlier in July where the BC Hockey Organization, which is the overseeing body of junior hockey, amateur hockey in British Columbia, actually awarded Junior A status to the three former Junior B leagues in the province. So the Pacific Junior Hockey League, the Vancouver Island Junior Hockey League, and the Kootenay International Junior Hockey League are all now classified as Junior A, Tier 2 at this point, with a situation where they may go up to Tier 1 in the future. Certain teams will anyway. And there's a whole write-up on that, actually, that came out of the news conference that Cam Hope, who's the CEO of hockey, or BC Hockey, and wrote a big long article there, and I'd love for you to check it out at bchlnetwork.ca. Now, let's get to today's interview on the podcast. We have a very special guest, as always, for episode number 17. He is an assistant coach for the Victoria Grizzlies. His name is Geoff Grimwood. Geoff, thanks so much for taking the time to join us here on the Two Goal Lead podcast presented by BCHL Network.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Brian.
Now, starting things off on a bit of a sad note, BCHL community shocked, saddened to hear about the recent passing of Mike Hammond. He was 33 years old, car accident on Vancouver Island there. He played a couple seasons in the league from 2009 to 2011. He won the Brett Hall Trophy top scorer in 2010-11. Now, you had a tie with Mike. You coached with him Junior B for the Victoria Cougars. That was during this 2006-07 season. What do you remember about Mike as a player and as a person?
Yeah, well, with Mike, I could probably talk forever here. He, when you say he's 33 years old, it scares me because I had him at 16. And in a lot of ways, in my mind, he's still that 16-year-old kid. But it was actually my very first year coaching, and the head coach with the Cougars was Craig Didman, who spent a lot of time, obviously, in the BC Hockey League as a player, and then with the Victoria Grizzlies. And sort of the long story short is Mike's older brother Gary was on the team, and he was a really good player himself. It was a very good team. We won the Cyclone Taylor Provincial Championship. Trent Orr was on that team. He's now refereeing in the NHL. So it was a really neat group. And Mike was, Gary's younger brother, and he just showed up for camp, and we didn't really know much about him. And he was like exactly what I'm talking about, like the younger brother, like too small, who's this kid that's at camp? Like, he looks like he's going to get killed. And then we realized pretty quickly he was really good. And I give a lot of credit to Craig Didman, actually, because Craig goes, this kid's pretty special. But he was small. He was undersized. He wasn't a very good skater. And we decided to keep him around. And I remember the meeting specifically. We said, we're going to give him 10 games and see how he does. Like, we just want to make sure he wasn't going to get killed out there. And anyways, long story short, he ended up winning the scoring championship for the league. He was the best player in the province, and had a tough time kind of cracking into Junior A full time. I think a lot of kids or a lot of coaches just couldn't get past the size and things like that. But we knew he was good, and we really believed in him. And when he finally sort of broke through with Cowichan there as an older player when he was about 18 or 19, we just kind of laughed because we knew he was good when he was 16, and tremendously talented player, really good vision, great kid, really good family, just one of those kids that really stays with you, and when I got the news this week, it was certainly heartbreaking.
Yeah, that's really tough. And I watched him in the league. I was in Merritt at the time and seeing those games, and just so much skill and talent. When he got traded to Salmon Arm from Cowichan Valley, that was something that I know in the interior conference teams weren't happy about, because they knew the skill that Mike Hammond brought. And really, really sad overall. Looking back to last year's team in Victoria, let's switch gears a little bit. Despite falling to Alberni Valley in the first round of the playoffs, were there some positives that the Grizzlies could take away from that season?
Oh, I think so. And I think number one is, like Craig Didman had been there for a long time. And Craig, I played for Craig, believe it or not. Like, it's a really small world. I played for Craig, and Craig had done a really good job over the years there. They had a lot of talent. And I think when the coaching change was made and Ryland Firster came on board, I think it was just time for, I don't want to say a reset on the culture, because, what Craig had done there previously was outstanding. But when there's a new coach comes in, there's a new energy. I think there's a chance to kind of redefine how the Victoria Grizzlies play hockey. So we were probably a little more defensive. We were probably a little more hard-nosed than the team had been in the past. And, we just kept coming back to, every time we talked, me and Ryland and Sunil as a staff, is like, we're laying the foundation for the future here. And we had a really good season. I think our first 10 games were a struggle, and I think we struggled at the end there, unfortunately, going into the playoffs. And Alberni was a really good team, and they made pretty quick work of us. But for the bulk of the season, like, I thought the guys did a really good job. They played hard, and it was all about just setting the foundation for the future. And that's, I think we accomplished that. So on paper, you always want to do a little bit better. You always want to go a little deeper. But I really felt with Ryan coming in and, just kind of changing our approach there a little bit, I think that's laid the foundation for future seasons.
How much of a battle was that Coastal Conference this past season, considering when you look at the standings, only 6 points separated third from sixth?
Yeah, it was tight. Like, funny, like, we knew Alberni was good early on. Like, I know if you probably look at the standings prior to Christmas, like, Alberni was down in 6th or 7th place. But we were sort of laughing to ourselves, because every time we played them, we go, wow, like, we thought that was the best team in the conference. Like, no disrespect to anyone else, but we really thought they're that good. And they showed that after Christmas. Like, I think they went on a run of about 22-4 or something. So we knew they were good. Nanaimo had gotten out to a great start. Surrey was extremely talented. Chilliwack, same thing, like, sort of lower in the standings, but just always dangerous. So it was a dogfight. Like, there weren't a lot of easy outs, especially when, Cowichan made the coaching change, and Mike Vandekamp came in, and, we just kind of rolled our eyes and we're like, well, there's no more easy nights there. Because Mike gets his team working extremely hard. So there weren't a lot of easy nights, that's for sure. And, with our team, like, we worked really hard. We didn't have, a lot of natural ability to score. So, it was just night after night. It always felt like it was just 2-1, 3-2. And, I remember looking at our athletic therapist on the bench, Colin, and we'd always stand beside each other in the second period when we switched ends. And every time I'd see him, I'd say, wow, it's going to be one of those nights again. Like, it was tight, but uphill battle for sure. But in the end, on our side anyways, I thought Alberni was the best team. And I think they showed that in the end for sure.
So you had Grizzlies defender Hoyt Stanley picked in this year's NHL draft, went to Ottawa. Yeah. What's impressed you the most about his development in the time that you've been there?
Oh, he's pretty special. Like, I thought we had a really good defense core as a group of 6 or 7. I coached in Pell River years ago, and we had, some of the best defense groups that I've ever seen. But, Hoyt's right up there. Like, he for a young man, like, just very focused, very composed, disciplined in his approach, lives like a really clean lifestyle, like very focused. I think for a young guy, that was the number one thing, is his off-ice habits and attitude is tremendous. Very, very mature young man. Like, when you talk to him, you forget that he's, 17 years old. You think you're talking to a 21-year-old. He's got that kind of, just that kind of way about him. On the ice, unbelievable feat. Like just, every time he touched the puck, he seemed to be able to break the puck out on his own a lot. And you just don't see a lot of guys that are 6'2" have those kind of feet. And I think that's the big thing. Like, he's going to go to Cornell here, and he's got a long time to develop the other parts of his game. He's going to get bigger and stronger. And I just think with that combination of, he's got good size, but his feet are NHL. And, with that combination, I hope he's got a chance to play down the road. I certainly believe in him.
So take us behind the scenes a little bit here. What does the offseason look like for an assistant coach with the Victoria Grizzlies?
Yeah, it's so funny because, I've coached about 15 years now, and with the development of our phones and, all that sort of technology, you certainly don't need to be in the office day to day. Like, I think it's really healthy for all of us to get away. I'm from Victoria. So, I just sort of, enjoyed my off season at home here with my family. Rylan Furster, his daughters are up in the Okanagan, so he spends a little bit more time up in that direction. But it's you try to get away from the game, but at the same time, it's just day to day. You're always connecting with the rest of the staff. Do a lot of work in terms of coaching conferences and clinics. Watch a lot of video. Really, just you try to refresh yourself and you try to improve in the summer. I think that's the big thing I've learned is you can't just come back year after year doing the same things. Like, you got to improve as a coach. You put in some time for some development, but I also enjoy the time away from the rink. Like, I like getting the skates off for a few months. I like doing other things. I like to travel around the province, lots of road trips, lots of camping, and hey, enjoy where we live for one thing, because once September 1 hits, you don't get a lot of spare time in the summer. Or during the season.
Right, of course.
And,
yeah.
And then the other, the last thing I'll mention is Rylan and I got a really nice opportunity to go to the Montreal Canadiens development camp just after the NHL draft there in early July. Flew out to Montreal there for a week, and that was tremendous. I'd never had an opportunity to do anything like that before, and really gracious for the opportunity, and that was a lot of fun. So it's just a combination of focusing on the year, trying to get better as a coach, but then also taking a step aside and getting away from it a little bit too.
I wanted to ask you about that Montreal Canadiens development camp. What was that experience like for you?
Well, it's tremendous. Like the first thing is, it's Montreal. Like, it's different. It's it'd be like going to the New York Yankees or Manchester United or something like that. Like, there's certainly sort of a gravitas to it when you walk in the building, even their practice facility. Like, you walk in and it really hits you. You just feel like, wow, this is a special place. Yeah, like the big takeaway, it's so interesting, is like what they're doing at that level is not, all that different than what we're doing. Like, the job's still the same. But I'd say, the big difference is obviously the budget and things of that nature. Like, their staff is incredible. They have, people in like nutritionists and strength conditioning and, you name it, the video staff, like, they're all in the building, even in the summer. Really overwhelming how big and professional and dedicated the staff is. Like, it's like an army. But yeah, that was probably the big takeaway for me, was just the professionalism of it. Like, it's really special to be part of the NHL, and the Montreal Canadiens in particular. There's a pride to it. The security guard opening the door to get in the building's been there for 46 years. Like that type of thing. Like, it's a real, you really feel it's the Montreal Canadiens, and I think it'd be special to go anywhere, but I don't know if you feel that in another market, so to speak. You really felt that it was Montreal.
For sure. Fair enough. You mentioned Sunil Karad, one of the assistant coaches there. You've talked about Rylan Furster, the head coach. What do you think the three of you, your strengths are as a staff?
Well, I think just the first thing is you certainly need more than one guy. I think the demands of the job have increased. Like, the expectations for being available to communicate to players, agents, schools, the media a little bit. Certainly, I think back in the day, a lot of teams sort of had that one full-time guy, and then it became two, and now we have three. So it's certainly a luxury for us, but I think it helps, serve the program. Like to that end, like we've got a tremendous athletic therapist, John Smith, an incredible equipment manager. So it really takes a group of us for sure. Like we don't ever want to put it on just one guy, but for us, it's interesting. Like me and Rylan have been close friends for well over a decade, but we've never actually coached together. We came close in West Kelowna, but that didn't work out. And then he didn't know Sunil, but I knew Sunil, and me and Sunil have known each other for 10 or 12 years. So collectively, like it's a very comfortable group within the three of us. Like we get along. We're all really good friends away from the rink. We can be honest with each other. And I think those things are important. Without question, like, Rylan's experience in this league, I think his intensity and like just how he gets guys playing on the same page quickly really impressed me last year. Like I learned a lot from him in that regard. Sunil's a really good teacher, a little bit more of a technical approach to the game, really good on video, excellent with our decor. And then, for me, I just always try to fill in the gaps with what's needed. So it's between the three of us, I think we suit each other well. We complement each other. And I think as a staff, like I remember being a head coach for a long time, and I just remember getting sick of my own voice sometimes. Like when it's just you're talking too much. So when there's three guys, I think it gives you a different ways to approach the team. And like certainly on certain nights, Sunil will go in and address the team, and Rylan won't. Or some nights it's myself, and some nights it's Rylan. So I think just having that sort of diversity of the message is good, and it certainly makes it a little bit easier to divvy up the work, because you're running a BC Hockey League team now is, you got to be on the ball every day. Like the kids have high expectations for what you deliver, and the agents and the schools, like you got to do a good job. So I think most staffs you see around the league are going to have two or three guys if they can.
You talked about the athletic therapist there in Victoria, but what are some of the other strengths of the Grizzlies organization that people might not know about, might not be so obvious to a casual observer?
Yeah, it's funny because for people that don't know Victoria, like we're sort of in what you'd call the Western communities out in Colwood. So we're not sort of the downtown team, like that's the Western League. So we've got sort of our niche out in that area. I think the number one thing that, and me and Rylan laughed a lot last year when we came into the program, just the amount of good people that we have. Like Butch Boucher is an education advisor for us. Like he does a tremendous job. We have so many. Cheryl Williamson, our billet coordinator, is tremendous. There's a really dedicated group of people that have been there for a long time. Like I played for the old Victoria Salsa 100 years ago. Back in the late 90s, and it's unbelievable. You'll see a lot of the same people are still around the team, even though it's moved and it's changed names and all that stuff. There's a really dedicated group of people that have been there for a long time. And so that was probably the number one thing, is just like, wow, like the kids are really well supported on and off the ice. The billets are incredible. Our ownership is good. Like Donnie Robinson has been around the game in Victoria for 50 or 60 years. Like just a tremendous person. And Ron Walchuk, has been with the team about 9 or 10 years, and he loves it. He's got a real big passion for it. So it sort of takes a village, so to speak. And I think we've got that. Like that's the number one thing that I was impressed with when I came on board, was there's a lot of support, a lot of good people. And I've worked in places where you're kind of on your own a little bit, and in Victoria, like there's a really good group of people.
So you've coached Junior B, Junior A in a handful of different leagues, also coached at the U18 AAA level and in the Western Hockey League. So for you, what's the main thing that you enjoy about coaching at these levels?
Oh yeah, no, I've been around a little bit. I still like to think I'm a little bit of a younger guy, but starting to get the experience miles are getting up there for sure. But I think I really take a lot of energy just from the people that you work with. I've been really lucky. Like I've worked obviously with Ryland and Sunil here in Victoria, Kent Lewis there for a few years in Pell River, Dave Lowry with the Victoria Royals in the Western Hockey League. I was able to sort of tag along there for a few years with him. And I take a lot of enjoyment on working with people like that, and that's where I get my sort of satisfaction is, working as a group, working as a team, and trying to accomplish something. Like it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of hard work and a lot of frustration some nights, and things never go easily, right? Like it's always a battle. In the BC Hockey League, the big thing is like everybody's good. Like every coaching staff is prepared. There's no easy nights. But for me, that's the big thing. Just working with the guys that I've worked with, and the kids, like they're so committed. They're so professional. There's a lot of enjoyment. And then, like getting back to Mikey Hammond there, like you see what these kids go on to, and, he's been around the world playing internationally for 10 years. So to play a small part of that is really cool. But for me, it's the people. That's what keeps coming back to it. Like, I think we could all have easier jobs, sort of in the real world if we wanted to. But we're all addicted to it. We all love it. And that's why we keep coming back.
If you could go back and give any advice to yourself when you first joined the Victoria Cougars in the VIJHL as an assistant coach going back to the mid-2000s, what would it be?
Oh, well,
knowing what you know now, of course.
Yeah. My good friend Dave Johnson, who's a veteran coach, told me once, you're going to see the same people on the way up as you're going to meet on the way down. And, I've had some ups and downs in my career. I've been fired a couple of times. And I remember that in terms of, like when you see other coaches get let go, make sure you reach out to them. Make sure you remember the people that help you out, because the world always comes around again, right? So you're going to see those people. So, the main thing for me is just treat people well. Make sure you treasure those relationships that you have, because you always see those people again, and it might be 4 or 5 years later. But if you leave a trail of good relationships, the game's pretty good to you. And if you burn bridges, it's not. So that would probably be the biggest thing, is just, make sure you treasure those relationships that you have, because those are the people that you're going to see time and time and time again in your career.
All right, couple fun ones to leave you off with here. What's the most intimidating environment that you have ever coached in?
Ooh, let me see. Well, you know what? Well, I'll give you a couple. The funniest one ever was when I coached in Pell River years ago, and Dale Pierneton was the coach of Cowichan. And I don't know if people know who Dale was. Dale was a tough guy in the NHL, and he's a big, intimidating guy. And I can't remember what happened, but we did something there, and he was looking over the bench like he was going to kill me. And I remember just being like, oh God, anyone but Dale. And then I met him in the hallway after the game, and he came up and he gave me a big hug, and just the greatest guy in the world. But yeah, Dale could definitely scare you if you wanted to. But he was a tremendous guy. And he coached Mikey there in Cowichan, so he was awesome. But intimidating, it's funny. Like, I've coached her in different places. I've been in the Saskatchewan League and places like that. So Flin Flon, going into the Whitney Forum in Flin Flon to play the Bombers. I don't know if it's intimidating, but it's like, it sure is fun. Like, you get that old school, big crowd, intimidating, loud. It's like the Montreal Forum of junior hockey up there. Like, it really is a fun environment, sort of an old school type mentality there. So that was always a place I enjoyed going into, and you had to really be at your best.
So other than the Q Center in Victoria there, what's your favorite BCHL rink to coach in?
Oh, well, like Pell, I coached in Pell River there with Kent for a few years, so obviously a soft spot, for going up there. I always thought Vernon had maybe the nicest rink in the league. I always enjoyed playing there for sure. But also, never had a lot of success there either, because when we were in Powell River, we met them in the finals a couple of years in a row. So we never had a lot of success there, but I thought that was always a great building. And then obviously West Kelowna, good memories of my short time there. Was a lot of fun, and the people there were really good to me. So, for me, whether you're at home or on the road, like, you want to have a good atmosphere. Alberni, I love going into Alberni because it's packed and the people are loud. So I think the more you see that through the league, the better. And I don't look at it as a home ice advantage for anyone. It's more just like, a great atmosphere for everyone.
Fantastic stuff, Geoff. Hey, thanks so much for doing this. I really do appreciate it.
Okay, all the best, and enjoy the rest of your summer.
All right, I think we're back in the swing of things now. Got Geoff Grimwood on the show. Wonderful to chat with Geoff, as always. And we're looking to get a guest now for our next episode, which, of course, if we go through the alphabetical listings of all the BCHL teams, will come from the West Kelowna Warriors. Yeah, we're getting closer and closer here. That's the last team, actually. That will cover all 17 teams in the BCHL since this podcast launched back in January. And so we'll start back at A with the Alberni Valley Bulldogs after we chat with someone from the West Kelowna Warriors. That is coming up on episode number 18 of the 2 Goal Lead podcast presented by BCHL Network. I do want to thank you for tuning in. I would love if you can like and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast platforms. Whatever that is, you can find us in a lot of different places if you're not actually listening to us on the bchlnetwork.ca website. Where can you find it? Well, Apple Podcasts, as well on Amazon Music, Audible, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and Spotify. So would love if you could subscribe and like the podcast there. As well, have a look at the website, bchlnetwork.ca. Lots of great work being done by my team of writers as we get through the off season and into the start of the 23-24 season, which is a lot closer than you think. I know, still feels like summer, but it's getting pretty close. Training camp is just about a month away. As well, if you'd like to join our team of writers at BCHL Network, if you're looking just to get experience in writing, sports media, you're passionate about the BC Hockey League, you're passionate about junior hockey, whatever the case may be, we could probably find a role for you. And if you'd like to, there's a button right there on the website that says join our team. Fill out that form. It fires an email off to me, and I'll get back to you right away with what the logistics are in terms of getting involved with BCHL Network. All right, that will wrap things up for episode number 17 of the 2 Goal Lead podcast presented by BCHL Network. My name is Brian Wiebe. I'm the owner and editor-in-chief of BCHLnetwork.ca. Thanks again for coming along for the ride on this episode, and we'll talk to you next time.